Hello friends, David here. Welcome back to this YouTube channel. So in today's video, we're going to discuss about the Q4 earnings of Palantir. But before I proceed, some disclaimer here. I do own Palantir share. In fact, it's one of my largest holding. And the purpose of this video is to analyze this stock based on its Q4 earnings, to assess any risk and opportunity, and to assess it objectively. It is not an indication for you to buy or sell this stock. So without further ado, let's deep dive into it. Once Palantir has released its Q4 earnings, the stock just crashed 24%. So what happened? If we just look at the Q4 earnings report, actually it's very healthy. The revenue grew by 34% to 432 million in just Q4 alone, which beat the analyst estimate of 418 million. And also commercial sector is also very healthy at 47% growth. However, the government sector has sort of slowed down at 26%, which may potentially explain the sell-off. As you know, majority of Palantir sales comes from the government sector, in fact about 60%. So a slowdown in the government sector may indicate a future growth slowdown. A deeper dive into the quarterly performance, you will notice that in Q1 alone, the government sector growth was 76%, and eventually it sort of slowed down to 26% in Q4. But this may also be because of the nature of government business, because government business comes in huge chunk, right? So what you will see is that you will see a huge spike, and then subsequently for the next few quarters it sort of slowed down unless you get a new deal. Anyway, because of Palantir's business being closely tied to the US government, the downside is that any slowdown in the government sector may affect the entire company, as what we have observed. And also because of this close link to the US government, it may discourage foreign government to work with Palantir. Because, I mean, imagine if you are Japan or UK or France or Korea, surely you have reservation to work with a vendor who directly works with CIA, US military and FBI, right? Another limiting factor for Palantir is that the US government sector can only grow so much. I mean, they only have so much funds, and there are only so many government agencies that you can work with, right? So it's only natural that after a certain point, this growth will sort of slow down, as what we have observed. But the good thing is, this group of customers are likely to be recurrent customers, because as you can see in the cohort of customers, those customers who are 2017 and older, this group of customers, they are still maintaining their sales. So anyway, this slowdown in government sector is the exact reason why Palantir wants to focus on the commercial sector. The commercial sector has been growing at a fast pace with 47% growth in Q4 alone. However, what truly drives the commercial sector is the US commercial sector, increasing from 72% in Q1 to 132% in Q4. The number of US commercial clients also grew from 17 to 80, which is like a 4x increase in just 1 year alone. And for the past 2 years, this US commercial growth sector have also been growing at 100% consecutively. If you just look at the 2019 cohort, it grew from 19 million to 102 million in just 2 years. So the fact that there's already 53 million booked for the 2021 cohort shows that there is massive growth ahead in year 2022, even without considering new customers. However, if you just look at the older cohort, those who are 2017 and older, the sales have been declining. Meaning to say, there's a customer life cycle to this. Because this group of customers were sold this software 15 years ago and they decided not to renew it. Hence, there's potentially a risk factor to this old group of customers where they may not be a repeated customers. CEO Alex Karp has said in an earnings call that the commercial sector will be the future focus, and it shows. Palantir is hiring 68 additional headcount to drive sales, and most of these just joined several months back. And what this means is that the result that you see in US commercial sector will likely continue. This trend will likely continue, especially you have 6 times more sales force. Palantir is also focusing on the commercial sector outside of US. In the earnings call, Alex Karp has mentioned that in year 2022 itself, they intend to hire 200 additional sales force outside of US. And this is crucial for Palantir's growth, because Palantir's future growth seems to be slowing down, and Palantir does not want to just rely on US commercial sector alone. Palantir's total remaining deal value as of Q4 is at 3.8 billion. The total remaining deal value is a contract that is already being secured, and it's pretty much a guaranteed sales over the next 4 years, just that it's not being invoiced yet. This is a good sign, because for the next 4 years, even if they don't do anything, they don't have new customers, they still are able to secure 950 million of sales every year, without doing anything, which this amount consists the majority of the company's annual sales. However, this figure was 3.6 billion in quarter 3 and 3.4 billion in quarter 2. And just for context, if you compare the same figure towards last year in quarter 3 2020, this figure was 2.4 billion. So what this means is that you see a huge spike from year 2020 to year 2021, but for the subsequent 3 quarters, this figure sort of stagnate, it sort of slowed down. And this is actually a key indicator for future growth, which indicate that it may slow down. Hence, moving forward is very crucial to monitor their commercial growth sector. In terms of profitability, Palantir has remained a consistent 30% adjusted operating margin. And even if you factor in the SBC, which is a stock-based compensation, and which is the operating margin based on the GAAP, the generally accepted accounting principle, even if you factor in all this, the trend is trending towards being profitable. From negative 49% to negative 14%, which is a 5-fold reduction in just 1 year alone. Now, I know many critics will criticize SBC, but you have to know that SBC is only an accounting part of the financial statement, meaning to say it's a non-cash expense which they have to park into the accounting book, but it doesn't affect the actual cash flow, the actual profitability when running the business. So if you look at 30% operating margin, which is around 500 million, and you compare it to Palantir's market cap of 22 billion, it is only a multiple of 45x, which is quite cheap for a high growth company in the early part of the S-curve. For comparison, if you just look at Apple, which is not an apple to apple comparison, no pun intended, Apple being a stable mature company has a multiple of 23x. So, and another metrics, if you look at the price to sales ratio of other similar peers, right? Palantir has a price to sales ratio of 13, CrowdStrike has a price to sales ratio of 26, and Snowflake at 69. So comparatively to its peer, it's actually quite cheap. And adjusted free cash flow is also very healthy at 424 million, which is around 28% margin. So generally, Palantir business is highly profitable and there's no dispute to that. I mean, sure, when you look at the EPS, the earnings per share, it's at 2 cents per share versus 4 cents per share that analysts expect, but it shouldn't matter in the early phase. But anyway, it still triggered a massive sell-off. Not a valid reason, but it is what it is. You have to know, Palantir is 70% held by retail investors, meaning to say you expect a high volatility. Because this group of investors, they are fanboys, they are the people who hope that Palantir will jump to $100 per share in 1 year's time, which is not realistic. So hopefully through this period, it will clear off the deadwood, that only the genuine investors who are holding it for the long term will remain. So wrapping up, Palantir's fundamentals did not change. They continue to show great growth, and this trend will likely continue. But the government sector has slowed down and they need to drive commercial sector to continue to drive growth, which penetration into both US and non-US commercial sector is crucial. My approach with Palantir is to continue to dollar cost average and hold for the next 5 to 10 years unless the fundamentals change. Anyway, I hope you learned something today, and as always, invest safe.